This question is about Rashika, who's beginning a new job in human resources. Now, as part of this job, she expects to be assigned to several groups, several human resource work groups. At this point, she doesn't know exactly which group she will be assigned to, but she's been told certain probabilities. First probability is about her being assigned to the recruitment work group, and the probability for this is half. That means there's a 50-50 chance of this happening. Either she will be recruited here or no. Then she's also being told about the probability of being assigned to another group called the new technology work group. And probability for this one is 3/4. So higher chances for this one, 75% if you see, are the chances of her being assigned to this group. Then besides this, she has no other information. She knows nothing about any other work group. What is the probability of being there? She doesn't even know if her assignment to one of these groups affects her chances of assignment to another. That means she doesn't know if she's assigned to this recruitment work group, then does that reduce her chances or increase her chances of going in the new technology group or some other group which has not even been talked about. So we here are talking about only 2 of all of the different groups that are there. We don't even know how many there are. This is all the data that we have. If we try to represent this in short, I can just call these 2 groups RWG. This is your recruitment group, and the other one simply is your NT group, new technology, and we have probabilities individually. We can just simply list them this way and move on. We will have to see what the question is asking because there's not much we can do here. So let's see the question, and here we go. This asks you to select for greatest probability for both assignments. This is the entire heading of the first column. For this column, you have to select the greatest probability compatible with all the given probabilities. Basically, taking care of the information that we just read, you have to find the greatest probability that Rashika will be assigned to both these groups mentioned, the RW and the new technology group, nothing else. Then similarly, actually it talks about the very same thing, but this time in terms of the least probability, but it's still talking about the same 2, you see, it's talking about the least probability that Rashika will be assigned to both of these groups. So essentially, all of the information was about these groups, and now the question is also about just these 2 groups only, mainly about her being assigned to both of the groups. That is the main part.
If you found the analysis of this dataset helpful, then hit that like button so that other GMAT aspirants can also learn from it. And to stay tuned with such content, hit the subscribe button below. Now, to take your learning to the next level, we have put together a free trial in which you can experience content in all the sections tested on GMAT Focus Edition. For example, you can build your CR pre-thinking skills, you can learn how to approach statistics questions in graphics interpretation as part of DI, you can learn everything about linear inequalities as tested on the GMAT Focus Edition, and a lot of other content. The link for this is in the description. Now, let's get back to the question at hand.
So before jumping into data and seeing the exact values, we have to understand how is it that both will happen. Think about both simply as an overlap between 2 different events. First event is her being assigned to the recruitment work group, and the second event is her assignment to the new technology group. And if I am talking about an overlap between 2 events, that should remind you of set theory. Every time you think about an overlap between 2 different categories, set theory should come to your mind. Because this time the context overall is in terms of probability, I also have a fixed universal set. I know the total is 1 because your probability at the maximum can be 1. This is 100% chances. Now within this, I'm simply thinking about each of these groups one by one, and my question is about this region, the both region. In one part of the question, in the first column, I have to see what is the maximum that this can be. Say this is X. Then in one column, I have to find the max that X can go, and for the other column I have to find the minimum that X can be. So now I will use the data I have for these, taking care of the total probability, and I'll see how I can maximize this region once and how then I can minimize it. So our approach is solid. Let's take this up there and fill in our values.
At this point, let me ask you this. Could you have arrived at the approach of solving this question with this level of clarity had you not spent the effort in thoroughly understanding the information presented? Such is the power of the process of owning the dataset. And because this skill may not come naturally to many of you, we have created a course architecture that ensures that we teach you this skill through every guided quiz in the e-GMAT DI course, and we reinforce the same in every practice quiz. In fact, in the TPA Quant modules in the 2-part analysis course, we teach you how to get comfortable with this question type. You will gain the confidence to handle any question of this type in the most efficient manner.
We serve more than 58 specially curated questions at the right progression so that you can learn various aspects of this question type, including the process skills of inference, translate, and visualize.
Thus, throughout the DI course, through around 500 questions, you will learn such process skills so that you can also comfortably use the owning the dataset approach. Let's now get back to the solution at hand.
Perfect, here we are. This is what we want to do, and these are the regions. First, let me think about one of these things. Let me try to maximize this overlap, this region here. Within the constraint here, of course, you have to stay within the box, but still you'll try to maximize the overlap. Think about two circles overlapping. When is it that they will have maximum overlap? Obviously, that will happen when one of these is completely contained within another. Obviously, the smaller one will be contained within the bigger one. If I manage something like that, then the overlap will be the entire smaller region. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So I still have the box here, the entire 1 probability. I have not changed that. I have the new technology, the bigger group with probability 3/4 outside, and this RW with half inside, because this is the smaller one. In this case, you see that the both region is half itself, probability for that. And this here on the outside, which is going to be 1/4, is simply the neither region, which is where you're talking about probability of not being assigned to any of these groups. I'm not interested in that. For me, I already do have the maximum that X can go, and that is equal to half. So I can already go and mark the answer. Maximum is what I wanted in the first column, and half is here. We're done. Similarly, let's come back here and logically think, how is it that you can have the minimum overlap between them? Well, the best case scenario will be to have the minimum overlap that they just don't overlap at all, which means if possible, I would love to have a situation like this, because in this case, the overlap will simply be 0. But is that possible keeping in mind this constraint of total being 1? Think about it. I have half here. I have 3/4 here. If these are disjoint, then half plus 3/4, this is going to be 1.25. It's more than 1. Now that is not possible. I cannot cross the total probability that I have, which guarantees that there definitely is some overlap. That means this possibility cannot be ruled out. There will be an overlap. Let me put a cross here. I just have to see the least such overlap. Now, the easiest way to think that is, when I kept them separate, what is the problematic extra that I got? If you see, the extra that I got was just this 0.25, which is 1/4 extra. If that much I take care of, I will ensure that the sum comes out to be just 1, not 1 and 1/4. So essentially, that is what I will keep as my overlap here. Visualize this situation. I had a full half here for RW, which means 1/4 will be here in this region, which is the only RW. This is the common region. Then we had 3/4 for new technology. If 1/4 of that is here, then I'll have the remaining 1/2 here. If you add all three of these numbers, it's a perfect 1. In this case, the neither region is 0, which is very well possible. So what did I simply do? I added them. I saw how much extra was I going because of keeping them separate, and just that extra I kept as the overlap. This was the smartest way to find this answer. And this therefore gives me that at the very least, my minimum value has to be 1/4. And with this, I'm also ready to mark the answer for the second column. That is it. Let's now nicely summarize this question. Very interesting, mainly done through visualization. First, what we did was understand the given information. Now, when we did that, there was not much processing we could do. We just needed to understand what the scenario was, what is this assignment about, the individual probabilities. We took note of that and simply went into the question. When we came here, we understood that both the columns are interested in a particular type of region where the both part is happening, assignment to both groups. That way, then we thought of two events where we were considering an overlap. This is where we connected this with our conceptual understanding of Venn diagrams. Now, solid conceptual understanding is definitely needed for you to be able to draw these connections. When you did that, we then tried to come back here. We combined this, of course, with the values, and then we logically thought, how can we maximize this region? How can we minimize? Then again, through visualization, we saw multiple cases. While maximization simply meant putting the smaller circle inside the bigger one, minimization was more interesting, where first we tried to minimize it to something as low as 0, but we saw that was impossible within the constraint. And for that, we understood a very interesting way. We inferred that just this extra had to be the bare minimum overlap, which gave us minimum X. So owning the data set, visualizing your way, using your solid concepts, and nothing can stop you.